Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily News. I'm Nicholas Richardson. The Civic Coalition wants to reject the Citizens' Bill, Yes to the Central Transportation Port, which was signed by 200,000 citizens. Its purpose was to oblige the new government quickly to undertake work on the Central Transportation Port. The resistance of Donald Tusk's team may come as a surprise, since officially the government does want the investment to be carried out. We will soon know the fate of the Citizens' Bill, Yes to the Central Transportation Port. It was supposed to oblige those in power to deal urgently with this investment. However, the December 13th coalition does not want to hear about any acceleration. The Civic Coalition Club will vote against the adoption of the project from Print 699 on the obligation of public authorities to implement the investment project of the Central Transportation Port. It turns out that the smiling coalition is civic only in name. The project was signed by 200,000 Poles with different political views. Respect for them would require at least going over the project in committees, even if one has reservations about it. A similar view is held by politicians from the Confederation, the Left or Poland 2050, who, despite doubts about the content, want to continue working on the project. I, for example, would also argue with this wording of the Central Transportation Port project, because it is quite firmly indicating this way or no way, and it seems to me, not only to me, that it should look differently. Civic presidential candidate Dr. Karol Nawrocki appealed for the project not to be thrown out. He also made an unequivocal election promise. I wanted to clearly declare that as a citizens' candidate for the President of Poland, if the Citizens' Bill is rejected in the first reading today, this bill will become my first legislative initiative as a future president. The attitude towards ambitious infrastructure projects may be one of the axes of the upcoming presidential election. When Rafał Trzaskowski says we don't need a central transportation port because we have an airport in Berlin, when he then changes his mind and says that we will make Berlin's competition with an airport in Modlin, such that the Germans will see for themselves, I think they will laugh when they hear this. It is Karol Nawrocki who unequivocally supports the central transportation port, collects signatures and supports the Citizens' Bill. Polls show that the construction of the central transportation port is wanted by the vast majority of Poles. Donald Tusk cannot completely ignore the voice of the sovereign. Hence, a surprising announcement was made before the last cabinet meeting. I have made a decision to transfer 3.5 billion zloty. These are treasury securities, and this money will subsidize the company. It will be related to the design work for the terminal, the railroad station, and the public transport interchange. At first glance, everything seems fine. The problem is that 3.5 billion zloty is almost one-third less than the funding plan prepared by the previous government. Law and Justice Party points out that this is one of the many examples of delaying the construction of the port rather than accelerating the work. Mr. Lasek has concluded contracts this year for 650 million zloty. This is 7% of what was foreseen. At this rate, the transportation port will be built for several decades. I think it was calculated that the construction would take around 60 years. So I understand that Mr. Lasek at this rate will invite us to the opening of the Central Transportation Port in 2085. The construction of the Central Transportation Port has been heating up public opinion since Donald Tusk's power. Although officially the project is to be continued, it is to be done in a truncated form and with a postponed implementation time. I have no doubt that it should be implemented. The question is who and why is blocking it, or who and why is acting to delay it as much as possible, because I have no doubt that at least the actions to delay this project as much as possible through various kinds of inhibiting actions have been continuously carried out for a year. The vote to reject the Yes to the Central Transportation Port project is expected to take place later today. Meanwhile, apart from delays to the Central Transportation Port by Donald Tusk and his government, Tusk is also damaging Polish-American relations. An American commentator, Matthew Foldy, on air with Newsmax, quotes Tusk's lies about Donald Trump's agent activities on behalf of the Russian Federation, and the Prime Minister's own denial that such words were never said. The problem is that they were dropped, and Tusk quite directly accused the US president of having agent ties with Russia. Tusk is destroying relations between Poland and the United States. Americans notice this, and it is a subject of debate in the American media.
But you are right to look at the Trump's world point. You're seeing world leaders basically act as if Trump is already president, because we currently don't have a president running the country anymore. I read a story about how Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk had last year, he was saying Trump had been a Russian agent for 30 years. He was asked about this, and he said, I never said that. So even though Trump has not taken office yet, and he won't for another 60 or so days, a lot of people around the country and in America are already basically pretending he's the president, because I guess they need sort of a warming up period to the reality that's coming. Yeah. And now they're trying to, get in while they still can.
Donald Tusk should not count on his past attacks on Trump being forgotten, especially since his name is being mentioned on US news programs as an outspoken opponent. A ceasefire between Israel and pro-Iranian Hezbollah came into effect this morning. The agreement will allow an end to the bloodshed and give more than 1 million people a chance to return to their homes. Will the truce contribute to the long-term peace in the Middle East? Tears mixed with great joy on the streets of many Lebanese cities. After months of wandering, nearly 1 million people can finally return to the borderlands with Israel, to their homes or what's left of them. I'm extremely happy when I see the joy of the people and hear the horns. A lot of homes were destroyed, a lot of people had to flee, but we are used to this. Even if we lose everything, we will still stand with our heads held high. Many Lebanese came with yellow Hezbollah flags. This proves that the organization can still count on the support of many people. My brother's house was destroyed. My son's house also lies in ruins. I came here on foot to celebrate and rejoice here. Praise God. May God take care of us. Tens of thousands of internally displaced people in Israel are also preparing to return to their homes, although here the mood is already mixed.
We are afraid that the Hezbollah...
The fear is that Hezbollah will begin to grow in strength again and in a few years will be able to start a new fire again, another war between Israel and Lebanon. So we're not exactly happy. Israel's Prime Minister, however, argues that Hezbollah has lost the war disastrously. We eliminated Hezbollah leader Nasrallah. We eliminated top commanders. We killed thousands of terrorists. We destroyed their rockets, weapons storage facilities and underground infrastructure adjacent to our border. We set Hezbollah back decades. Hezbollah is to withdraw 40 kilometers from the Israeli border. In return, Israeli troops will leave areas of southern Lebanon.
The Lebanese army and state security forces will deploy and take control of their own territory once again. Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure in southern Lebanon will not be allowed to be rebuilt.
The ceasefire will expire at the end of January, just after Donald Trump takes his seat in the White House, and this marks a new US approach to Middle East peace. Certainly, a strengthening of Israel, certainly a more confrontational attitude towards Iran, and we'll see how Iran reacts to that. A ceasefire on the Israeli-Lebanese border offers hope for the release of hostages who have been in the hands of Hamas terrorists since the 7th of October last year.
My hope is that the one good thing coming out of this ceasefire with Hezbollah is that Hamas realizes that they are left alone in the war arena. And we see them signaling that they're willing to reach a deal right now. And now the ball is in the Israeli and the international court.
Terrorists are still holding 101 people. It is already known that more than 30 of them are dead. Walt Disney will pay its female employees more than $43 million as part of a settlement in a lawsuit alleging that they were underpaid. In the class action lawsuit, the women calculated that they lost a total of more than $150 million comparing themselves to men in the same positions as a result of gender-based wage discrimination. The first plaintiff was La Ronda Rasmussen. The woman discovered 5 years ago that the men she works with earn more than her. She believed that the correlation she observed was a manifestation of gender discrimination. The amount of pay was not dependent on seniority, nor was it related to experience. In fact, among the men earning more was an employee who had less experience, but earned as much as $20,000 a year more than me. Rasmussen was joined by other women employees at Disney. In all, some 9,000 people filed a lawsuit against the company. The case gained worldwide publicity. The plaintiffs claimed that in 8 years they earned a total of $150 million less than men working in the same positions. I strongly applaud the women who brought the discrimination lawsuit against Disney, one of the largest entertainment companies in the world. They risked their careers to reduce the pay disparity at Disney. The settlement provides monetary compensation and requires Disney to implement oversight measures to correct the wage disparity. This agreement would not have been possible without these courageous women. Thanks to them, women can expect equal treatment at Disney in the future. Disney's settlement is a clear sign of a growing trend towards eliminating the pay gap and gender discrimination. That's the news. Thank you for watching, and from me, have a good night and a better tomorrow.